Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Luke Mardigan. I'm the owner of the Mardigan Agency in St. John's, Michigan. A lot of people ask me, why do you have a radio show? Well, it's because we've been able to accomplish something that most captive insurance agents aren't able to do, and that's have a scalable sales team and a self-managing operations team. And what that's allowed us to do is to grow to about double the size of the average captive insurance agency in the United States. And we share how we've done that both practically and tactically with you on this show. And so thank you for listening to Be Insured. If you've ever wondered, I should say this is a continuation of 2021's theme, which is no-brainers and never happens. Well, today's never happens for all my insurance agents out there or anybody in the service industry is why you should never wonder what coverage you have or whether you are covered. Your clients should never wonder what they bought. They should know it. And so while that sounds kind of harsh to say that, it should never happen, reality is that's literally your job, is to let them know what promises you're selling them. So today we're going to continue that conversation. And this is critical to running your service-based business. And joining me for today's discussion is our guest,
Alec Nuremberg, Director of Operations.
And my awesome co-host,
Eric Gastring, the Mardigan Agency.
So Eric, you've done some wonderful rants in-house at our agency about this topic.
Never.
What causes a client to be uninformed about their policy?
Well, there's two ways. Obviously, it starts with the agent, right?
Right.
The agent's responsibility is to thoroughly go through and discuss how their policy works, what's covered, how it's covered, in and out of everything in a detailed fashion, which actually doesn't take that long.
Yeah. Well, it's if you are competent,
yes,
you should be able to explain that high level very quickly.
Even with questions and maybe somebody that you're talking to that's not that competent or understanding certain things, it still only takes about 45 minutes per year to make sure you're explaining this.
Well, just up front, if we do it in 45 minutes to an hour, then it's usually like 10 to 15 every renewal because we do it right up front, right?
The thing about that I've noticed is that they don't retain anything from the first time or the second time, often the third time, often the fourth.
So that's the second. Is that the second reason why people
the second reason is absolutely customers. I feel like, I'm just going to be blunt. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. And I'm not saying all of them. There's a difference between an A client and a C, D client.
Yep.
We talk about this drastically at our agency, and we understand it. Spending the time and energy.
Some shows on it too.
Yeah, and spending the time and energy on a D client is not something we choose to do.
Yep.
So it brings me back to the first problem.
Yeah.
But that's because of the second problem.
Well, they kind of play off each other, right? I mean, if you're talking to somebody and they don't seem interested in what you're talking about, then you don't continue to talk about it, right? That's a basic emotional IQ thing.
Well, dismissive, especially.
Yeah.
If people are dismissive towards you trying to help,
and that's hard. That's like the extreme of not interested.
Yes.
If they're so not interested that they act like what you're saying is just, I don't even care about that. Like, hey, so do you have life insurance somewhere? Why would I have life insurance? Like, whoa, really? Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Why would you? I don't know. Why don't you,
And you could try explaining that maybe, but
because I don't want to spend the money. Well, what do you spend your money on?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
guns.
Well, we don't have those conversations, right? This is all internal. And when people say, why would I have life insurance? I go, I don't know.
Why do you think you would?
Yeah.
No, I say bye.
And that directly relates to, choosing who you do business with, I think.
Yes,
that's a slippery slope. That goes down to retention rates and all.
Oh, yeah, no. Well,
I agree with that, but unfortunately, clients change. So they go through seasons just like we did an episode on climate and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And when you're going through stuff and if you're open, honestly, if you have insurance, everybody out there, your insurance agent, if you're just open about stuff and say, hey, I'm going through stuff right now personally, I don't want to talk about life insurance right now. Don't you think that would be received better than I don't care?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or just, we'll talk about that later, right? They try to they just dismiss it. Like,
I have a lot going on right now,
financially
and all these things, which is real.
Yeah.
Do you think we're not going to understand that?
Hey,
right.
We're going through a tough spot. We don't know if we're going to change careers, houses. We don't know. We have a lot up in the air, so we just want to wait right now.
Yeah, I got laid off because of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
These are all real things.
Well, and then there's now when you say that, now there's potential solutions that you weren't even aware of. Oh, well, we can just defer your payments for 2 months and and there's just a million things.
There's a discussion.
Put one of your 4 cars in storage or something. I mean, there's ways to drop some costs.
Yeah,
we're trusted advisors for you guys. Let us bring some solution.
If we don't know what's going on, then we can't bring the solutions, right? That's just, it's kind of like
I guess that's the point. Yeah, that's the point.
In a marriage, if you never tell your spouse something that's you're unhappy about, you can't then be upset with them that they haven't fixed it.
Right.
But that's literally how people relate.
Yeah.
On a daily basis to the person they're married, that they committed their entire life to, is they'll go for decades unhappy about something and then divorce them because of something they never even told the person that they, or they did it, passive aggressively, or, they did it like under their breath or, whatever it is that they said. And then they leave them for it. And then the other person's blindsided. I never saw it coming. They're like, I've been unhappy for decades. And like, well, you didn't say anything. Right. So how are they supposed to know?
People forget nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yes. So it's that's true of all relationships, including with your advisors. So your top advisors, CPA, attorney, insurance agent, banker. Okay.
That's 100% accurate.
For every business owner, those are the 4. You need to have really good advisors in all 4 of those areas.
Yeah.
Not every business needs bankers.
Fact.
Because, everything cash flows differently and that sort of thing. But
and the reason why you said those areas, because those are complex.
Yes.
So insurance is more complex than just getting on a website and clicking buttons. I'm sorry.
It's more complex than getting a commercial loan.
Yeah. Yes. It really is.
If the person's doing it right, there are more factors at play measuring risk on your insurance policy than the lender is measuring risk on you.
100%.
Because they have just some very key points that they hit. Ours, there's like thousands of variables. So we got to know what the hell we're talking about. We can't just be like, oh yeah, here's an insurance policy. And that's exactly what happens in today's world.
Yeah.
So
it's thousands of variables that we can analyze, but I mean, it's infinite variables that actually affect something, right? So that's crazy to think about.
And it's
a very unique industry.
That overwhelmed thought is why most customers do not engage in a conversation about what they're actually buying. They just say things like, I want the cheapest price. I just want enough coverage to get out of it what I put into it.
Or, I trust that you did it right.
Yeah. I just don't want to think about it, which, that's okay.
The reason why we're
actually trust you.
Yeah, right.
But you can't say that and 3 years later have a claim and be like, well, I thought that was covered.
Well, that's why we should have this. And then we have to say, this is why I wanted to really dig into it with you, right? I wanted to make sure we did this right.
Well, yeah,
that's why when we're presenting everything to you at the beginning, I was like, hey, this is and you're like, yeah, I trust everything's good. That's your job, right? Well, for me to do
what if it wasn't good?
Yeah. For me to do my job, though, I have to make sure that we're getting every detail of it right.
Yep.
And when we miss the little thing that you said you didn't care about, when all of a sudden you care when it happens.
Yep.
Right.
What are you going to do? Right. And so
then it's my fault.
Right. And that's why, on home and auto, a car is a car, a house is a house. Okay. Generally speaking, there's a bunch of variables that you can throw into it that do affect the outcome, like whether you have broad form or special form on your homeowners and stuff.
Just going to say it. Yeah.
But what a small detail. It's just one word. No, broad form has 16 causes of loss that they pay on. Special form has thousands versus 16 with a $100, $200 price difference per year. That's a big deal.
Right.
But a house is a house, a car is a car. But for businesses, we have a commercial evaluation form that has to be filled out in its entirety before we will, as a agency, even quote the business.
Yep.
And so if we had a business owner, Eric, if you recall, who would not provide us with sales numbers. Mm-hmm. We no payroll numbers, no sales numbers.
And then I told them that we didn't want to work with them.
Yeah, because we can't. We literally can't do our job without that information. That'd be like saying to your CPA, file my taxes, but I'm not going to give you any documentation.
Not only that, that we can't, why would you want to work with somebody that doesn't trust you?
Right.
It's not transparent about something that's pretty straight. Yeah, very basic. The functions and operation of your business and the health of it. I mean,
even if you're hiding stuff, I don't care. Let's just be honest. We
just need it. We need to know so that we can, if you have $4 million in sales, I don't want to give you $1 million in liability.
Right.
It's
and then be like, you're fine.
Yeah, because that's what a lot of people do, though. They don't even ask that number.
That's exactly what he currently had, right? Was like no coverage.
Yeah.
And the wrong code for his workers' comp.
Yeah, all types of stuff. His building was classified as like a kitchen utensil sales or something. Yes. Anyways, so
I digress.
So we've talked before about how insurance is the unsolvable puzzle, and that really makes it difficult to educate our clients. So something
streamline it.
So what have we been able to do as an agency? We streamline it so that you get high level concepts that trigger questions. This is all about having a consistent sales process. At the end of the day,
it works.
Yeah, yeah. You have, but it's very difficult to have a consistent sales process because everybody on your team and your salespeople, it's the old telephone game. I teach you, hey, green means go. And then you have to say that to the next person. You're like, hey,
green means no.
Green means no. And they're like, no means green. And it's just by the time it gets to the end user, 100 reviews down the road, it's told a different way. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember 4 or 5 years ago, we had the Laurel Yanni thing, the clip where like you played an audio clip and 50% of people heard Yanni and 50% of the people heard Laurel. And that's why like even docking boats, great exercise. This is a communication. This I'm not thinking about
everyone should have to go to a boat launch.
Yes. And dock a boat with their spouse before they're allowed to get married.
Right. Well, let's just be honest. If Luke and I were married, we'd be flawless because we dock boats perfectly.
Oh yeah, we crushed it. And, but
launch boat. Sorry.
Hey Sarah, keep it level. And she's like, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, I don't know how else to say level. Keep it flat this way or that way. All of them completely flat all across, and that's not Sarah's fault and it's not my fault. It's just that she's hearing Laurel and I'm hearing Yanni, and we can't get on the same page because we're arguing whether it's a blue dress or a gold dress. Right. And that's all about perception and communication. So the best way to get to understanding what a buyer wants to buy and what they need is to ask open-ended questions. This is so simple, but it happens. It very rarely happens in the sales world. I've sat with, as a business owner, I meet with vendors and people all the time. And, I met with a financial advisor and he didn't ask me any open-ended questions. He was trying to get me to a place that he wanted it to go. And I could tell, and I won't work with him as a result. Because I even told him, these are the things I don't like. And then he tried to sell me one of the things that I don't like and convince me that it's the best thing ever for me. And I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's like, I just told you.
That's cookie cut training programs, I think.
Yes.
And we see more and more of that.
Yeah. It's the key is critical thinking, right, and being able to process through and actively listening.
It's just being laid back and relatable, I think,
Well, the thing that
welcoming,
I think drives us crazy is that there's people in the world that just go, just sign here.
Yeah. Sign here. I've told that story about my first insurance policy a number of times on the show.
And guess what? I'd say 90% of people have no problem with it.
Yeah. Right, which is a shame. And it's because, so here's reality. Billions of dollars are spent by all the large national insurance companies to tell you that the only thing that matters is price, period. And so people sit down with an advisor who says, no, price is secondary to coverage.
Right.
Because what person in their right mind would say they would rather save $100 a year but lose thousands of potential causes of loss? No one would. Right. If you were as a consumer actually listening, you would never make that decision. That would be like, hey, it's kind of like the old classic, like the upsell at Domino's, right? It's like, hey, I just want a medium pizza, but for $1.50 more, you can upgrade to a large. Done. And we'll give you a Coke.
Done.
And it's like, yeah, done all day. Who wouldn't do that? Yeah. I'm going to get like 2 extra pieces and a Coke out of it.
Only give me that option.
Yes. Yeah. I wish you had started it with it, Right. But maybe you wouldn't have picked it if that was the choice. When you look at it, you're just like,
that's true. Yeah.
And so that's how humans work. And that's why they have to do all that psychology, the psychological psyops really of trying to get people convinced that it's only about price, because then they just have to come in at the lowest price.
Right.
And that's a lot easier than actually having conversations and advising them and walking them through the process. And that's unfortunately where the industry is today. The insurance industry is, hey, let's just talk about price, and coverage is all secondary to that.
Amazon effect too. Everybody wants everything now.
Which ironically, Amazon tried to get into the insurance industry, found out how low the profit margins are, and then decided not to.
Just so you guys know, insurance agents don't make that much money off of your policies, just so you know.
Yeah,
it's for the amount of work that we put in and how much effort we give and how hard we love you. it's minute, right?
Yeah, when you compare it to other industries like the mortgage industry, real estate, the other people who are in these service-based industries dealing as a business to consumer, our commission levels are very low. But part of that is because we want to keep the price low. So we're not sitting here screaming for more commissions. We want your price to be fair and reasonable, and we're okay with taking what we get.
Because price still is a factor. A little,
you have to be reasonable.
Right, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
It can't just be unlimited, right?
Right.
And so, no brainer here. People should never wonder what coverage they have. And we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent here about why clients aren't listening. But reality is, if you don't understand the psychology of your buyer, then you will not understand what's important to them. And they will always wonder what coverage they have rather than valuing the fact that you considered all factors at play and you covered them for the things that really matter. So if you have questions about this, thank you for listening. Please check with us on Facebook and Instagram. Be Insured. That's BE space insured. And we'll see you next time on Be Insured.